And also in your book, The Fraud of Frauds, there's a section where you're examining about the 5 Israelis who were detained right after September 11th, and how long that they were held, and what treatment that they received, and how many U.S. government officials think of some of these Israeli detainees still to this date. Could you fill the listening audience in on what you've uncovered within your book on that section?
Yeah, absolutely. These guys, I mean, very, very little was made of this. Now, like I say in my book, could you imagine if these guys would have been of Arab descent, what would have happened? I mean, could you just imagine? I mean, CNN and all these people, I don't know if you remember, I was also talking in my book where they spoke about the Palestinians that were cheering, and they made a big deal about that. And, of course, they made a big deal about it until it was learned that they were just offered cake and told, yeah, go ahead and get in front of this camera and start cheering.
And not one person was interviewed, right?
Right, not one person was interviewed. Not one Palestinian was interviewed and said, oh, yeah, do you dislike America? Are you glad that the attacks happened? And yada, yada, yada. They just showed them cheering, and then the newscasters added their vocals to it. But, yeah, the 5 Israelis dancing on top of a van, the woman called the authorities and says, look, there's these 5 guys. I mean, why would this woman lie, first of all, right? And why was nothing made of this? When ABC News reported that there's some federal agents that still believe that some more should have been done to find out exactly what these guys were doing. And by the way, they had a couple of $1,000s stored away in their stock. And the moving company that they worked for, after being interviewed by the FBI, left their warehouse basically unattended. They just left everything and went back to Israel with some of their clients' equipment lying around in the warehouse. I mean, these are things that we have to say, what's going on here? And why wasn't this further investigated? Well, we know why, because George Bush and Cheney and them decided they didn't want an investigation. They said, you know what, let's not give an investigation because an investigation will take away energy from finding the real terrorists. Now, isn't it strange that Tony Blair said the same exact thing after the 7/7 London bombings? He said the same exact thing. Let's limit our investigation because it'll take resources away from finding the real culprits. I mean, these guys don't change their tune. These guys do the same things over and over again, and they're getting very, very sloppy, in my opinion.
What about the big wig fraud that you uncovered within your book, The Fraud of Fraud?
Oh, yeah, that's, a lot of people have known about this. I mean, this is stuff that makes you say, what is going on? I mean, this comes out in the mainstream media, where Bush and them had already prepared to attack Iraq even before 9/11. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is a group of people that were all in his cabinet, also members of the PNAC document. I don't know if you're aware of the PNAC document. Are you aware of the PNAC, Plan for a New American Century?
Well, yeah, I'm aware of the New American Century report. We've had people come on in the past and talk about it.
Yeah, where they talk about how they need to find their way into the Middle East, but they need an event and yada, yada, yada. I mean, these people are demonic.
And eventually they're going to attack Iran is what they're talking about, too.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Eventually they're planning to attack Iran?
Oh, yeah. It's the whole... Yeah, they basically want the Middle East because the Middle East is very important to them. I mean, and it's not just the oil, but that part of the world is very, very rebellious against the whole structure of what is referred to as the New World Order. I mean, a lot of those countries don't allow the IMF and the World Bank in there, so they need those people out. And you have tyrants like Saddam Hussein who go along, but then once he decides, well, I don't want to do this no more because I'm my own, this is my country, and I'll do whatever I want, then he gets attacked. Do you follow? But, yeah, getting back to the big wig fraud, I mean, this is if it's not a smoking gun, I mean, the Washington Post, big headlines, records could shed light on Iraq group, an Iraq group that was set up to basically strategize on how can they get to Saddam Hussein, what can we do to get to Saddam Hussein. Now, of course, a lot of us in what's referred to as the truth movement or whatever, conspiracy theorists, whatever they want to call us, kept saying that there were no weapons of mass destruction, that this is a lie, and we knew this because a lot of inspector generals that have inspected Iraq said there's no reason for us to believe that there's any weapons of mass destruction. So we knew that it was a hoax. But why, now that we know that there were no weapons of mass destruction, they have not found any weapons of mass destruction, how many thousands and millions of people have died in that war, not just our soldiers, but Iraqis? Why hasn't Bush and these people been prosecuted for lying and sending these kids to their deaths?
Well, here in Canada, what happens is the Canadians actually help support the Canadian Navy, provided support for the Iraq invasion, and our leaders are telling us, oh, no, Canada didn't get involved with the Iraq war, but they did covertly. And at the same time, we also have to remember the 935 lies leading up to the Iraq invasion by the Bush administration.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of countries were involved here and there. Then you have, of course, the French really didn't want a part of it, so then they got smeared in the news, and a lot of people were getting real down on the French.
Freedom prize.
A lot of countries did have their part. And why not have their part? I mean, they knew that once it was all over that they were going to divvy up the spoils, and they didn't want to be left out in the cold. You follow? So,
yeah,
of course, Canada and all these countries had a part in it, or a lot of countries had a part in it that you wouldn't even know or expect to have a part in it. But with England and the United States, of course, leading the way.
And also, you talked to me briefly about the system that has to be put in place to make our money actually something to provide a little bit more support to the money. You're talking free money. Could you talk a little bit about that subject?
Free money?
Yeah, it's basically, it's like gold and other minerals are put to back the money.
Well, see, here's the thing, Reginald, that I also talk about in the fraud of money in banking is that a lot of people in the truth movement believe that once we have what's referred to as hard money, which is money that's backed by commodities, that can't be manipulated. And that's wrong. That can also be manipulated, and it has been manipulated in the past. As far as I'm concerned, the only way you can do it is to allow free markets to rule. Do you understand? Not to have one currency and say, okay, this is the currency that you have to use or else. Let, as it was in the past, allow currencies to roam free. Allow different currencies backed by commodities and also not backed by commodities. And one of the currencies that I think was better in this country was United States notes, because the United States notes did not fall under the old National Banking Act of 1862, which stated that any national bank that issued money had to back it up through government securities. So therefore, our Treasury Department can issue United States currency without having to purchase United States securities. Therefore, the United States government doesn't have to issue United States securities, which is what's creating our national debt. So this is what is referred to as debt-free money. The United States notes would be, although it would be fiat currency, it would still be debt-free money. So this is, in my opinion, where the country should go, and also have money that's backed by commodities. But as far as a private Federal Reserve where we don't know what they're doing in the background, that definitely needs to go.